Welcome to Tunnel Vision. I'm Riley Sager alongside Ryan Abraham and Shotgun Spratling. We are breaking down USC's 59-20 win yesterday. How you doing, guys?
Doing all right. Yeah, we got Shotgun in studio for one more show. Sorry, I just ate a little, what do we have? Panda Express. my mouth's like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, doing good. We were all in the Coliseum. USC won by 39 points. If you read the P, Shotgun,
I don't.
They lost.
I know better.
Yeah, USC lost. They're never going to win another game, so we'll get into that. My fortune was share joy, so I'm going to try to share some joy. And that's not much of a fortune, as Riley pointed out. But yeah, USC smoked them. And Clay Helton didn't get to come back and have a triumphant return or anything. But yeah, doing all right. How about you?
Hanging in there. I just about finished rewatching the game. Spent probably 3.5 hours in the first quarter. Got really locked in to seeing a bunch of different things. But, making all the way through and, get a chance to see some of the backups and stuff. But overall, positive. I mean, when you win by 39, I think that's still a positive. I think one of the big takeaways, just kind of college football in general yesterday, is I think you're seeing a bigger and bigger divide between the haves and have-nots, right? So, the group of fives just aren't going to be able to compete. So just take care of business. Now, are there things you want to clean up? And I thought it was important that Lincoln Riley said in the press conference, he didn't say, this is a great win. We're just so happy we want to know, blah, blah. He said, no, we have to play to our standard. We got to see, are we at our best? And they weren't. But you still won by 39 points.
Yeah.
The spread was 28.5. They covered that. You took care of business. There was, maybe after the first drive when, Georgia Southern takes the lead, after that, there weren't really any, hold your breath moments that Clay Helton was going to, hurt you again, USC fans. It wasn't going to happen. So they took care of business, and, they got to clean some stuff up. Would like to see a little bit more action in the front seven, a little bit more, from the defense tackles. Didn't see too much, plays made from them. It was great to see Jakeem Stewart out there. Great to see great to see the wide receivers actually score a touchdown. After the first week, all the scoring was going on. They were left out, so they figured
they weren't left out.
You know what? We'll do it ourselves this time. One-handed, run it 60 yards, run it 70 yards, whatever it takes. We'll do it ourselves.
Yeah.
But they were spectacular, and now is when the trying starts. The harder play. The step-ups continue next week when they go on the road. That's a scary thought, I know, for USC in the Big Ten.
Changing time zones.
Yeah, it's going to be scary.
This was supposed to be hello, by the way, not like your full analysis and then
That's
previewing
what I
next
do.
week's
You know
game.
this. You know this.
Well, we're going to break all that down, but if you're just now tuning in, thank you for listening. We're live on YouTube and Facebook. If you want to give us a call, 512-4-TUNNEL. We want to hear from you. Talk to you live. Also, drop some comments in the YouTube section and Facebook. We'll try to get to those and star any questions you may have for us.
Yeah, that's great.
As you can tell, we're ready.
512-4-TUNNEL for sure. I got I'm monitoring. The lines are open, as they used to say back in the radio days. And I'm glad we're working because there was a little technical stuff going on in the beginning. So hopefully the comments are they coming up, Riley? It looks like comments.
We have a couple.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Just saying hi.
All right, perfect. Try to throw one up on the screen just to make sure it works. I haven't played with that yet. So we're doing this on the fly. But yes. Oh, look at that. Boom.
Jay.
Perfect. Okay, we're good. Yeah, so we're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. And, you can, if you're listening later on, we put it up as a podcast form as well. But our regular Tunnel Vision show, our second game recap, and like everyone said, 59-20, USC takes down the fighting Clay Heltons. And I do want to stay positive on this because Shotgun, we were driving home, and he's like, wait, people were negative? I'm like, man, people were jumping off buildings. They thought everything was so terrible. And I think the general feel, and let us know in the chat if you felt bad about it, everything went perfectly in week one. There really wasn't much to critique as far as 9 different people scoring. Everything just looked good. You got a defensive touchdown. You scored you never punted in the game. That's pretty rare, even against air. And then some people were being critical, you were playing air. It was not air. There was actual, that Missouri State team went out and beat Marshall, who won the Sun Belt last year. So now they got smoked by Georgia in week one, but they won a real game. So it's not terrible. I know Georgia Southern looked literally like ass against Fresno State. They were winning in the first half. Fresno State kept turning the ball over. But Fresno State had already played a game, so that was their second game. This was Georgia Southern looking like they got that first game under their belt. It was a travel game. They got to stay in California the whole time. They came out. The offense looked actually pretty decent. So people that were comparing, Fresno State was better. USC beat them by more. It's fine. It's fine. They've won their first 2 games by 99 points. So I don't think there's a lot. I think they should be ranked. I think that's kind of dumb, but whatever. But the feeling, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, why people didn't feel good about it. Looking into the numbers a little bit, because sometimes you're like, okay, this is what I felt like watching. But if you look at the numbers, USC scored quickly. It wasn't like the big, they had 8 touchdowns. 6 of them were scored on a first down. It was just like, boom, big play. And the other 2 were on second down. It wasn't like you were grinding out drives. They scored quickly. But Georgia Southern did have, and you mentioned the defensive front, a lot of success running the ball on first down. They're almost 5 yards a carry. So, if you just stuff the run, and I think USC's stuff rate was like 6%. It wasn't very good. They didn't do a good job of just shutting down the run. Now, they got some negative plays. There were 8 tackles for loss in total. But I think if they would have put Georgia Southern in like second and 8s and second and 9s instead of like second and 5s, and then they kind of moved the ball a little bit. And they did have that one 15-play, 6-minute, 81-yard drive that just didn't feel, to me, that didn't feel right. But it was still, 20 points, 7 more points than Missouri State scored the week before. But it was closer. They weren't covering the spread early, and then they kind of pulled away at the end. I think that's sort of the general feel, that USC just didn't stomp on them on first down. They actually let Georgia Southern kind of get rolling a little bit.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Georgia Southern ran 82 plays. So they ran a ton of plays because USC was so on and off the field with the offense with some of those quick drives. So you compare that with what you saw. They ran with a little bit quicker pace as well than you saw Missouri State. So Missouri State only ran less than 60 plays. So when you get 20 more plays, and it's in large part just because of the tempo of the game. Like Missouri State knew they're getting beat up. We're just going to slow things down, or else it might be 90 points to USC. It does if they would have ran with some pace and stuff. So I think that you want to look at it for sure, but I don't think you need to be overbearing on it. Now, I think the defensive front needs to be more active. I haven't really said anything or heard anything about Devin Tompkins in that game at all. Just kind of disappeared in this one. So he's a guy with how much hype he's had in the offseason coming in that would like to see get a little bit more action. But seeing Anthony Lucas get 2 sacks and be active and be kind of all over the place, I think that was really huge for USC. And I think they're still mixing and matching. So I think they're trying out a bunch of different guys. Like in the first game, the starters pretty much lined up until it was, I think it was 28-3 or something like that, 27-3, whatever it was. They were, well in hand middle of the second quarter before any of the reserves got any playing time. So like Jamal Jarrett was not getting any time. Yeah. This game, he was in on the second drive, or Jakeem Stewart was in the second drive. Jamal Jarrett was in the first drive of the second quarter. Yeah. So
they kind of mixed and matched.
So they mixed and matched a lot more in that regard, especially on the front 4. And I think they're kind of seeing, okay, what combinations work? Who do we need to get work together? Those type of things. So I think they were just kind of taking it as a preseason game to an extent with those front 4 in particular. So I think you saw some other positions. Like the linebackers did not. It was Eric Gentry and Desmond Stevens all the way until fourth quarter. Yeah. So I think there were a couple other positions where they're like, we're going to be solidified, and I don't know if that's necessarily position coaches deciding that, it's Lynn, or how they went about it. But you saw a ton of cycling of the cornerbacks. Next week I think that rotation will slim down. I think you'll start seeing DeCarlos Nicholson, and then who do you want as the number 2? But I think you'll see them in there 75% of the time, and you'll rotate in the guys maybe once every 3 or 4 drives versus they were rotating every single drive in that one. Yeah. DeCarlos Nicholson, continues to play, outstanding and continues to show that improvement from where he was last year. But, I just don't want to make too much of it from the fact that Georgia Southern had a ton of plays in this game, and USC on offense had 755 yards. It's the most that USC could find in their record book. Yeah. Because their record book goes back to 1972 as far as yards per game, and this is the most they've had. USC is now, where do you think they rank in scoring right now in the nation?
Probably number 1. Right?
Number 1. Yeah. Where do you think they rank for yards per play?
Probably number 1.
Number 1. Where do you think they rank?
They averaged like 12 yards a play in this game, right? It was something like that. Yeah.
They're like 11.3 for the season. Where do you think they rank for yards per carry?
Probably number one.
Number one, 8.6 yards per carry. Where do you think they rank for yards per pass attempt?
I'm guessing number one.
Actually, number 3. Third at 14.2. But so I just can't look at those numbers and then go, the defense is terrible, and like that you got to harp on the defense. Sometimes you just got to celebrate the positive, and you can look at it and say there needs to be some improvement made on the defense side. There's things that have to be cleaned up, right? But you don't have to freak out and be like, oh, they're going 6-6 now. They're going 6-6 for sure.
No, yeah, that's a little overreaction. I think so we don't get the radio broadcast in the press box, but when you go into the bathroom, it's playing over the loudspeaker. And I think it was Sean Cody was talking about, because Georgia Southern did have some success running up the middle, and he's like, hey, that's got to be on your middle linebacker. He's got to make sure to clean that up. So, I want to see. We haven't seen a lot from Desmond Stevens as far as like, hey, he's someone that everyone's been raving about, and I think there were some situations there that he could have stepped up and probably made some of those plays.
Yeah, that's definitely a concern, and I think I think we mentioned this. Chris and I did on the Helium Boys podcast this past week, but he's going to take his lumps. He's never really played middle linebacker in his life. He was a safety in high school. He played some cornerback in high school. That's how versatile he is, and you saw his coverage ability when he kind of bites a little bit on the play action, but then he's able to get back on that DeCarlos Nicholson interception. So he's the underneath guy, and he's all over. That shows his ability to gain ground, backwards to be able to track that play. But yes, he's still kind of finding his way, and so that's a big concern going forward when you get to Illinois. I think he's got to learn a lot. And he's got to take a big jump in the first 4 weeks. But the good thing is you do have these first 4 games where the opponent is not quite as good as you're going to face in Illinois on the road. Now, Michigan State won in double overtime against Boston College, really thrilling game. They've got a decent quarterback, so they could present some challenges. Purdue's 2-0, and they're playing better, obviously, than they were last year.
Yeah.
And Barry Odom's going to have them playing better. But your talent level is going to be much more than theirs. But these stepping stone games, how much can he improve each week over week over week? And that's going to be really important. I mean, Eric Gentry is going to make his plays. He had 10 tackles, 2 tackles for loss. One of them was a sack on the attempted double pass. So he's doing enough on the other spot. Now you need Desmond Stevens to kind of step up. And probably the biggest thing, I'm sure you guys will ask Denton Lynn about it this week, is where he's kind of at. But is he getting all the calls right? I think that's the first step as a Mike linebacker.
Yeah.
If his communication skills are doing well, and I asked him after the game, I said, where do you think how you're doing with that? And he gave himself a B- grade. So that's something else that is he getting everyone lined up? That's the first step, and then he has to go try to make plays himself. And I think because it's his first time, he might be playing just a half step slow because he's thinking about his process, and the more and more reps he gets, the better he's going to be.
Yeah. What did you think, Riley, from the sidelines there? Was there a sense that the defense was struggling, and what did you feel like?
Yeah, I mean, shotgun, you were listing all the number one here and number one there. But yeah, I mean, just watching the game and then listening to Coach Riley after saying, for example, all of the penalties, what was it, 8 costing them 93 yards? Like, that's not acceptable. Blowing the coverage. There was a whole thing with Bishop, and he didn't think it was his fault. Maybe it was. I know Connor brought it up last night in instant analysis with last week blowing the coverage with DJ Harvey, and then he wasn't a starter. So, what's going to happen to Bishop this week? So I just think the first 2 weeks that shouldn't be happening, especially when they're causing touchdowns on the other side. But like you said, Shotgun, it's not like this big alarm like, oh, they're screwed for the rest of the season. You're going to work out the kinks. But obviously, there's stuff to improve on.
Yeah, the penalties are a little concerning, and there was 3 hands to the face penalties, and Shotgun tweeted out a photo where
Keyshawn Silver.
Keyshawn Silver was getting hands to the face for sure, and they didn't call that one. But I don't know if it's an emphasis. I'm going to try to ask Lincoln Riley about that this week, because there were 3 of those penalties. You're like, wow, and a couple times you saw Georgia Southern helmets on the ground, so there probably was one. But
and it was 2 of the 3 times, or 2 of those times plus another time, it was all the same offensive lineman. He has big dreads, and it seemed like his helmet was going to pop off pretty quickly. And so if your hands kind of grazed over the face mask, it was popping off pretty easily.
It was like a remote control, helmet pop off, like a Lego head just popping off.
Not to say that the hands were not up there at the face. There was a couple other plays where I noticed that USC had their hands up there. One of the techniques that you try to use as a defensive lineman is you want to get your hand up and try to push the shoulder pad into the face. You want to push him back, right? You want it to be able to.
Can't let it slide all the way up, though.
And so, it makes me wonder, like, is there some Crisco on the uniform so that it slides off and hits the helmet instead or whatnot? But, it's something that I think that's a technique issue that has to be cleaned up a little bit. And there are those small things that have to be done. Braylon Shelby did it a couple times. Jamal Jarrett got called for one on the same play. Jakeem Stewart could have been called for it. So, that's something that definitely you want to figure out. The pass interferences I wasn't really that concerned with. I thought the one on Chasen Johnson was ticky-tack. The one at the very end was not very good call. They have to work on slot fades too. So the first touchdown to Bishop Fitzgerald, one-on-one coverage because it's third and short. They load the box with 9 guys. They have one-on-ones on the outside, Bishop Fitzgerald, and that's something that we didn't necessarily know about Bishop Fitzgerald. How can he cover one-on-one? That's their best wide receiver, so maybe that's not a matchup that is going to be favorable for USC. Maybe they have to use one of the other safeties when they go to something like that. We'll see how it continues. And then the last touchdown that Georgia Southern had was against Kevin Longstreet, who's a walk-on, has been playing pretty well as a walk-on, but he's the third nickelback right now because you're Prophet Brown being hurt and then
Alex Graham
being hurt as well. So they did go in the second half. I noticed one of the adjustments at halftime was they used Kevin Longstreet, a true nickelback, a little bit more than having the 3 safety look that they've been using a lot the first 2 games with Christian Pierce, Kamari Ramsey, and Bishop Fitzgerald. So I don't know if that was just they didn't like what they were seeing necessarily from the 3 safeties or what exactly, but that was something that I did notice there. So we'll see how the adjustments that are made week to week. There are some things, the communication issues are definitely a concern, right? You never want to have, but I think it's a product of how many new guys are in that secondary. It's Kamari Ramsey, and then everyone else around him basically is new or has no experience actually being on the field playing except for DeCarlos Nicholson. Those 2 guys. So you have 2 old guys, and then everyone else, even though Bishop Fitzgerald is an older guy, you saw on that play, as Riley mentioned, he's turning and looking at DJ Harvey with his hands out. And you go, wait, is that DJ Harvey's fault or is that Bishop Fitzgerald? But then you see Kamari Ramsey come over and he's talking to Bishop Fitzgerald. So you go, okay, that's probably Bishop Fitzgerald.
But I trust what he says.
Yeah. So it is definitely a concern that those are things that get cleaned up. But you got to clean them up quicker and quicker as the season goes along. That is the benefit of having this kind of lead-up schedule that they have this year versus last year starting with LSU, though.
I think the cleaning part is important. Like, it just wasn't as clean of a game as in week 1.
True.
Opponents are similar, and I think sometimes, especially when the spread's this big, USC still covered the spread. But I think it's one of those situations where if you're looking at a 4 or 5 touchdown spread, like, there's stuff that's just going to happen in the game. Like, for last week, USC getting a pick 6, you're like, all right. If you're, like, banking on the opponent, keeping it within 35.5 points, when the favorite gets a pick 6, like that's not a good sign for it. And if you got to cover a big spread and you turn the ball over, like your best running back just puts the ball on the ground and gives up a touchdown the other way right away, that's usually a bad sign. When it's 8 or 9 penalties for 90 yards or whatever, and Georgia Southern had 1 penalty for 1 yard, like that's like stuff like that's going to happen. We're like, okay, those are little things that can kind of turnovers obviously can even things out. And despite those things sort of going against USC, they still, blew this team out and was able to, win going away and, by more than the spread. So I feel like you felt a little bit weird. It just didn't feel quite as clean. It wasn't played as clean. And I think it's a good thing where you can get a super comfortable win. And Lincoln Riley even talked about it after the game, where you still there's a lot of teachable moments. There's a lot of stuff on tape that's like, you got to clean this up, the penalties, whatever. So, like, you'd rather, like, get a blow. You can learn a lot when you lose, but sometimes if you have some adversity in a win, you can learn a lot there, too. So you'd rather win by 39 points and then be able to learn from it and have this build-up into Big Ten play.
Well, exactly, because those smaller details, they're going to matter when they're playing harder teams. Like, it's going to make a difference. For example, like, Jaden Mayava almost throwing that interception, like, if it was a better team, probably would have been pick 6.
Yeah, that guy might be a millisecond quicker and kick it up to the other guy.
It hit the ground, like his foot in the ground.
At the same time, yeah.
When I saw it live from the press box, I was like, I think that's an interception. And they're running, and they didn't stop the play. And I'm like, I think this is a pick. So I'm like starting to type out my tweet. But then it's like they call it incomplete. And then we could see on the screen, it's like, okay, it looks like the ball's on the ground. But that was like, that was a turnover-worthy play, too, where he didn't have any, he didn't even throw. There weren't any contested catches in week 1, right? Like there wasn't even. you never even needed to do that. So, he completed 67% of his passes or whatever. But there was that at least one turnover-worthy play, which you didn't see that in week 1.
Yeah, after week 1 where he was basically perfect in everything he did. Decision-making was perfect. Throws were perfect. He had a couple of drops, and he had one knocked down at the line of scrimmage. This game, I think he had 3 throws that weren't perfect. That was one of them, and that was probably the worst one because you're rolling out to your right, you're trying to throw back across. It's just not a smart decision. The other one's just, he had Mekhi Lemon after the second touchdown. He had him going across the opposite direction towards the right instead of the left, and he threw it behind him. And I was like, oh, that's the first bad throw that he's had. It's maybe still catchable, but it wasn't in front of him, wasn't where it needed to be, and Mekhi Lemon couldn't quite make the catch. And then there was one more where he threw that wasn't the best.
Zacharias Williams one that was under.
I don't blame that one. Just because he's so wide open, you just want to make sure he catches it.
Yeah.
You never want to overthrow anything that's that wide open.
Yeah.
You would rather take 61-yard gain instead of a 0 gain, right? And he gets caught and you score 2 plays later or whatever it was. But there was one other throw that was just behind somebody, I think, is what it was. And I thought the decision-making on the third down in the red zone to throw it out of bounds, I thought that was really good. The one where right after that, Zacharias Williams, there was the play where he kind of rolls out to his left, and there ended up being a penalty called on it, but he just throws it away. Those are decisions that he may not have made last year. So that is something that really pops out to me is the decision making outside of that one play, and that one play is the type of play that can cost you a game in a highly contested game. So he has to learn from that, right? But otherwise, I just think that it's leaps and bounds from where it was last year as far as decision making and the accuracy of his throws right now. So we'll see as the competition gets harder. Obviously, you mentioned there were no contested catches in the first one. This game there were 3. I think Jacoby Lane had all 3 of them. He caught 2 of them, but there were 3 balls that were contested.
And he was pass interfered on 2 of them.
And both of them actually. Yeah. But those were the only contested ones. And hey, that's a 1-on-1 matchup. And the reason why you can get that one-handed catch is because you ran the ball in that drive to start with. You ran it 6 times, and so we got to load the box. Who are you going to single up? You're going to put somebody over Mekhi Lemon, who is about to have 2 touchdowns, or you're going to put somebody over the top of Jacoby Lane who can do that to you. So I think there's a ton of weapons, and especially if they run the ball, the offense will continue to hum, not at the same pace as they are currently on, but they should be able to be a really good Big Ten offense this season.
It was a little bit of adversity too, especially fumbling the ball in the first drive and then being down 6-0. It's like, okay, now you got to go out and score. Now they scored in bunches and they scored quickly, but there was a few drives where they were facing some third downs and just not having really any adversity in the first game, you could kind of pretty much do whatever you wanted. This was at least putting him in some different situations or a little more pressure on him. Like, oh, we're down 6-0. We got the ball first. Okay, but now how are you going to react to that? And I thought he still looked almost about as comfortable as he did in week 1. I think him understanding the offense and how comfortable he looked was the biggest difference for me in the opener. And you wanted to see, all right, you get punched in the mouth a little bit. Can you still look that comfortable? And I think he did like you said, one bad throw. He had one overthrow in the first game. That was the one he wanted back to Mekhi Lemon.
Yeah.
But outside of that, one turnover-worthy play. Certainly a lot better. He had 7 turnovers through his 4 games last year. Now, the competition's not as good right now, but to not have any turnovers so far, I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah, and for the defense, I think it's similar. They had to face some adversity. I mean, they did give up a couple touchdowns, but let's not forget the first one was on a short field, and they got it to third down, and the guy made a good play to go catch that ball. It was a terrible throw. It's part of the reason why he was able to catch it, because if it's a good throw, Bishop Fitzgerald's right there, and he doesn't get his head around. I know a lot of people are upset about the DBs not getting their head around. He's right on the ball. This is in the NFL. You don't have to get your head around. You can play through the receiver as long as you're not affecting their ability to catch it. But, Camden Brown, who's an Auburn transfer, was able to cut underneath because the throw was so short on that one, because they brought in a running quarterback. That guy had only played 1 snap last week.
Yeah, he was like the Wildcat guy.
He's their, he's not a true quarterback, or he's not their quarterback that they bring in to throw the ball. So USC loads the box, and they get that one-on-one matchup.
And he throws the ball, yeah.
And he throws it, but it's not a great throw, but a great play by the receiver. I think that one you just kind of tip your cap. But that was a short field. I mean, a little bit later, the second touchdown, they went around 50 yards, if I remember correctly. I'd have to look it up here. But, it wasn't that long. It wasn't like they went 80 yards. Now, the one you mentioned earlier,
It was 15-play, 81-yard drive. Like that took most of the end of the third quarter. You wanted to see Hassan Longstreet get in, and like he would have come in if you got a stop, and that was when they didn't get a stop, and it was like a 6-minute drive, and that didn't feel good when that was happening.
Okay, well, let me tell you who the completions or targets, the defensive players that were targeted on that drive. Jaden Walker, had the big hit over there. DJ Harvey gives up a catch. DJ Harvey incompletion. Kevin Longstreet completion. Marcellus Williams completion. Marcellus Williams incompletion. Kevin Longstreet touchdown. None of those guys started.
Yeah.
The linebackers on that drive, Eric Gentry left in the middle of that drive. A little bit of concern because he was limping a little bit. But he came out. Newby was in. Jaden Walker was in. No starters. So your whole back seven, I think Kamari Ramsey was still in there. Maybe Bishop Fitzgerald. I can't remember off the top of my head. But, you didn't have all your starters out there. So I'm not as concerned about it in the same regard. Whereas if you really need to get off the field, the starters would have been in there in a bigger game or whatnot. So there's different ways to look at everything, and yes, there's definitely some concerns, but I'm not going to be overwhelmingly concerned with a 39-point win.
No, I agree.
I don't know how long Gentry was playing after. He was kind of limping around, like you said, shotgun. It just seemed like, did they need to keep him in as long as he had been against Georgia Southern? Did you notice anything, like when that potential injury?
He was in for one snap after he kind of got up and was a little bit gimpy going back to the huddle, and then they got him out. And the drive you said how long? 10 minutes?
No, it was like a six.
Okay, so
6+ minute drive. Yeah,
it was
15-play drive. Yeah,
a little bit. I think it was around midway in the third quarter.
Yeah.
So I think that was going to be his last drive, anyways.
Yes.
But I think that I don't know for sure, but Jaden Walker started that drive off, so I think maybe they wanted to get him some time with Jaden Walker and see how those two paired together a little bit, especially because Desmond Stevens has had a little bit of struggle. So, hey, let's get him some time with Jaden Walker, see how that matchup works on the field a little bit before we go full subs in the the rest of the way.
And I think Georgia Southern, we don't have to talk much about Clay Helton anymore, but I feel like they came out and played way better than they did against Fresno State. It was their second game, and I think this was like a pull out all the stops, try as many plays as you can, whatever you can do to try to get some success. And even listening to the post-game press conference from the Georgia Southern side, it seemed like we were trying to do some of these things, and we did some good things. They actually did. There were some good things. You give credit to, this was a bunch of guys trying hard for their head coach who was coming back home and all that. And it still wasn't close to enough, but it sort of give you a little bit extra boost, hey, we're playing for coach, or we tried these different things, some quick passes. They did, they did whatever they could to sort of keep the USC defense on its heels. Had a little bit of success, but it wasn't going to be sustained. But it does give you a little bit of a weird feeling that's they did have some success there. But I would give credit to, there's still some Clay Helton things that were happening, where timeouts were called. USC fans were kind of, hey, it's really cool to see that happen on the other sideline instead of for us. But I felt like he did, he did try some things that were actually working pretty well. Try some things that you didn't show on film and things like that, and give some credit there. But a little bit of success here or there, it just wasn't going to be enough.
Were you surprised they stayed in California after the Fresno State game? Because 9 days on the other coast.
It's a lot. I mean, I don't know. I was talking to an administrator at USC, and they were like, that's a big expense to have all those guys stay in a hotel for that long. So they were in Oxnard, and
you sure they just didn't pack tents and stay out?
Maybe, I don't know. But also the travel, it's tough too. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I didn't even realize that was happening. I heard on the radio broadcast the week before, I think Peter Arbogast mentioned that. I'm like, oh, let me look into this. And I'm like, okay,
Let's not act like it doesn't happen in other sports. USC's women spent a whole week, when they went to Maryland, they went to, I can't remember, Rutgers. Baseball trips, teams from the Northeast all the time go on spring break trips, and they go for a full. Or you played the weekend before, so you travel on Wednesday or Thursday, and then you're through an entire week. There'll be teams from the Northeast that'll come out to California and play a bunch of different teams. So it's not like it's unheard of. It's different for a football team. I think with the travel, going back and forth, I think the toll on your body, and the other aspect of it, and we don't really need to get too much in this because it's Georgia Southern, but you treat it as a second training camp. You have an opportunity to bond with all your players and stuff, and maybe they come out of this this trip as a tighter unit or whatever it may be, and maybe that's a team to look out for in the Sun Belt.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, It's funny. There's just that's such a polarizing thing. Clay Helton, and they announced him coming out of the tunnel, which is something the athletic department doesn't normally do, but it was sort of like a little bit of an homage to, hey, recognizing he was the head coach at USC. And, I talked to the administrators, I let them know, like, dude, whatever, if you recognize him at all, he will be booed. And he was booed, and it wasn't like, thunderous boos, but it was booed. It's like you get booed. And they'll boo teams when they just come out to warm up and stuff. But this was like a little bit, different. So, but yeah, he's been like a 500 coach there. They could probably do some damage. It's not easy to go, travel that far and play. Fresno State, look like they could be pretty good. And, obviously playing USC. So we'll see. Maybe they'll have some success. I was surprised that Missouri State ended up getting a win, like beating Marshall. Like they're, Marshall lost to Georgia like 45-7. USC destroyed the team, that beat Marshall way more than that, So it's like people want to do transitive properties, like, well, Fresno State looked better. I'm like, okay, well, compare Georgia and USC then, because
Georgia yesterday was what, 28-6 or something.
It wasn't pretty. Yeah. And, Florida loses to
South Florida.
Yeah.
And Fresno State, the team that beat Georgia Southern the first week got it. They lost their opener to Kansas, but yesterday they beat Oregon State and won by 9 on that game. So
Penn State looked pretty bad most of the game. They were favored by like 45 points, and they ended up getting like 38-0, but it was like in the 20s most of the time.
Somebody told me it was like a 2-score game with like 6 minutes to go.
It was something crazy. Yeah, like it was like what? Yeah, and the whole ranking thing, and I was a little surprised. I thought the AP, USC dropped in the AP poll. They went from 29 to 30. I'm like, you beat 2 teams by 99 and you're not moving anywhere, and you're going to keep like Florida. So I think the problem is that you do your initial rankings, and the people that say you shouldn't have initial rankings, this is why. Because, okay, we're going to put Florida in the rankings, and then you lose to like a not great team. Well, we had them up there. We can't drop them that far. Like, well, you didn't know anything about them. You just thought you knew, like, oh, Lagway's going to be great. Well, they lost to a bad team. Get them out of there. Like, there's no reason to keep them up there just because you had them there to begin with. Like, they haven't proven anything. USC hasn't proven anything because they haven't played anybody. But why I would rank USC above Florida, who lost to a bad. They lost to a bad team. Like, so some of that stuff is dumb. But the good thing is you don't need to be ranked now. USC will get the benefit of the doubt when the season rolls along and you actually play real teams. Like USC is one of the most overranked teams in history. You start playing some good teams. You beat like Illinois on the road or whatever, who blew out Duke on the road, but didn't look. I mean, Duke made a ton of mistakes. Like there was a lot of stuff. Like Illinois definitely looked beatable, even though they. If you look at the scoreboard, like they just blew out Duke, but it was close. They kept making mistakes. I mean, there were stupid stuff like Illinois punting, and they punt to Duke, and so Duke should have the ball. They had 2 number 8s on the field. So it gives Illinois a first down, and they end up scoring a touchdown. Like, just like not anything Illinois did. It's just like, oh, we're going to put 2 number 8s on the field, so we're going to give you a free first down. Like, stuff like that was happening. You're like, oh, my God, Duke, what are you doing? That's Manny Diaz. Like,
who's coaching the special teams?
Special teams? I don't know. John Baxter's still at he's at Fresno still.
Are you sure he wasn't at Georgia Southern for that first 2-point conversion? That's what Jordan Moore said to me on the sideline. Like, is that a John Baxter special over there? Trying to overload and run the swing gate. USC was all over it.
Yeah. But so it's setting up well. I think, USC needs desperately a win outside of the Pacific time zone. I don't know. When's the last one? It's been a while, I think, since they got a win. I mean, no real Big Ten road wins yet because UCLA doesn't really count. So Purdue was the worst team in the conference last year. They are not this year. They're going to be better, but certainly go to Purdue, get the win. It's weird travel too. Like USC's going to be flying into Indianapolis and staying there, and then flying out of West Lafayette. So that's kind of interesting that you're going to be doing. Yeah, so did a little research for you guys. But yeah, so that's just go and get a win against one of the lower level teams of the Big Ten. They didn't do it last year against Maryland, but I think you got your more I's are dotted, more T's are crossed this year. Go get a win. Then you're like, okay, you got your first Big Ten win, and then Michigan State, who's a little questionable. Aiden Childs can turn the ball over a bunch. A team that's capable of beating you. Anyone's capable of winning. Come to the Coliseum, and then get real opportunity to start off 2-0 in the Big Ten with a massive showdown against Illinois. So I think it's setting up well. If USC takes care of business, the rankings will take care of itself. And
Don't worry about the rankings if
Yeah.
you are concerned about that. They win next week, they'll probably be in because a couple teams will lose. I mean, South Florida jumped all the way up to 18. Oklahoma makes a big jump, but everything else is pretty stagnant as far as rankings because not a ton of teams have played other teams so far. So that's part of the reason why. And there haven't been a ton of upsets. There's been a 2 or 3 each week. It feels like outside of the ranked matchups, like it hasn't really been like, oh wow, the Florida one. So I think that don't concern yourself with it.
No,
Just concern yourself with
it
USC.
is dumb that Florida's ranked though. No,
They're not ranked.
I thought they were ranked.
South Florida's 18. Not
I
Florida.
thought Florida got ranked.
On the AP, they weren't.
Oh, maybe the coaches they were. Or
maybe
something.
the coaches. But
I don't know.
they dropped out.
Good. They should have dropped that. Yeah.
Well, if you're listening, thank you. We would like
Oh.
some more comments. We have a couple questions. I've starred them for later.
Oh,
But
we got a call. if
We have a
want.
call?
Yeah, you want to do that?
Yeah, let's do
Oh
it.
crap! They've been on for a while. Sorry. Oh no, they've just a few minutes. Let's go. Looks like we've got
Live caller.
live caller. What's your name and where you're calling from?
Hey, this is Blackie Chan from Minnesota, and I'm just calling in regards to the offensive line. And after these 2 games, what are your confidence level with the rotation that they kind of had with this offensive line? How do you think is your confidence a little bit more up since they haven't given up a sack at this point, at least with Jaden Mayava?
Thanks, Blackie. Yeah, we got to meet him last year in Minnesota. We went out for our little meetup.
He's going to be
there.
another game this year, he said previously. So
Oh, nice.
coming down maybe for the Illinois game. I don't know.
Yeah, so a little surprised that Michael Buenuelos ends up getting the start at right guard.
A decision, an inside the wall, these walls decision. Which,
Yeah.
What does that mean? Does anybody have a real guess on that?
I was checking with Connor. My guess was this was not a football decision. That's what I would think.
So someone asked me, on Twitter, does that mean it's disciplinary? And I go, well, he still played because he was in with the second team. He was still on the kick unit as a blocker. So was it just a demotion because of something that happened off the field? I don't know exactly.
We'll see what we can find out, but yeah.
We'll do some investigating.
Yeah, so that was just unique to see that. And also, I thought it was interesting, the alignment, to then use Micah Benuelos. So Micah Benuelos has done well enough to I guess, jump over Kalen Miller because that was the battle initially, right?
Yeah,
right guard.
that was with camp, yeah.
And then, I don't know how much you got a chance to kind of focus in on him, but it was average. It was what you expect out of someone making their first start. There were some ups, there were some downs. I think on PFF he graded out just slightly above average, like right below the starting grade. So I think though that I've been impressed with the left side of the line. I think that there's a really good connection with Elijah Page and Tobias Raymond, especially when they're pulling on those GT pulls and stuff. I thought Killian O'Connor had a really nice game yesterday. Justin Town, how about the big block that he had? Was a hilarious play. If you don't get it, I'll be tweeting it out eventually this week. But destroys a guy on the screen, looks down and tells him.
He's out running in space.
Yeah, so he gets out in front. A DB comes over and he catches him and flatbacks him. And then he pauses just a bit to tell him that he flat-backed him. and then he gets going. He's like, oh, wait, I can go make another block. And he starts taking off, and then he ends up tripping over his own feet. So it was like quite a topsy-turvy play for Justin Town now. But I thought he held up pretty good this week, and I think that's what you're going to see from those guys. They're young. They've got some talent. They're going to have some, there's going to be a game or two where they just get beat up. The other team has noticed something, a way that they can beat them, and that happens. How do you grow from it? So I thought that there were a couple opportunities. And I thought really just if you focus on the first play of the first 2 games.
Yeah.
First play last week was not good, right? The whole right side, there was issues. The center got pushed back into Maiva's lap. The right tackle has a chipper, and then he still lets the guy get inside. And the right guard gets pushed back, and is off balance. And Maiva has to escape, and he makes a throw. This week, you look at play 1, everyone's lined there. Maiva has plenty of time. He throws a completion, and USC's off and running towards 59 points on offense. But that's one little play from each game. But I think it just shows the growth that you're going to see from some of those guys this year as they get more and more experience, more playing time. And as the competition gets harder, they're going to take some lumps as well. Similar to Desmond Stevens on the other side, playing linebacker. The guys that are playing for their first time in college usually take lumps.
Yeah. Oh.
Jakeem Stewart, did you guys notice him until late in the fourth quarter? He played a good number of snaps, didn't really you wouldn't notice him if you didn't know that he was, this high-profile guy. And then late in the game, he had a couple snaps. You go, oh, well, there's number 4. And he got a tackle for loss in the backfield. And, the play after that or a couple plays after that, he gets a pressure on the quarterback. And, a throw is wide late because him and I think Anthony Lucas were both pressuring the quarterback on that play. So you say, okay, there's the tidbits. Those young guys will take lumps. And how do you grow from it? That's the most important thing.
I think he got called out in the broadcast early, like he got pushed around a little bit. Or maybe it wasn't the broadcast. I don't know. But it looked like Stewart, like early on, just kind of got pushed around a little bit, and then it was like, "Hey, we're just welcome to the college game. You got to figure it out."
There he is. I have a question. What do you guys think? Killian O'Connor and Micah Banuelos next to each other. Does that concern you for Big Ten at all?
I mean, I'm always when you get to the Big Ten in conference play, and as you play better and better defensive line, especially when you go against Illinois, and they've got a very experienced old defensive front. Then I have a lot of concerns with the inexperience. And that includes those 2 guys. That includes Tobias Raymond, and that includes Justin Townau. The only guy that I feel confident in is Elijah Page. And Elijah Page looked really good yesterday, I thought, in the plays that I focused on
from
him.
what I saw, yeah. It's like,
He didn't necessarily grade out the best on PFF, but I thought he looked pretty good. And so he's a guy that has experience. Like I just think that this group will grow together. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with right guard next week. If it was disciplinary or it was something else, that's harmful for the team because it's an extra week to grow and bond together and figure out the tendencies of everyone around you, when you need to help pick up somebody, those type of things, when you can go to the next block, all those minor details. You missed out on a week of it this week if you're going to make that switch back. If not, then it's great to see Micah Banuelos in there, and we'll see his continued growth beside Killian O'Connor. But I thought O'Connor did really well. He does a really good job. I thought Johnny Reed actually did pretty good when he came in as well. So I don't want to say that that's may not still be a competition, but I think Killian O'Connor does a really good job of not just having leverage because he's shorter and being strong with it, but knowing his leverage, where the play is going to go, and how to quickly quick set his feet to churn in when he needs to help open up a hole. He doesn't just try to reach and kind of pull with it. He gets his feet moving and gets around blocks really well. That's one thing that kind of stood out in this game, and against better opponents, that's more difficult to do and stuff like that. So we'll see all those things as well.
Do you have any predictions for switch-ups in the starting lineup?
ooh. It seemed like they played around a little bit more in this game, and maybe that's just to get into Big Ten play, but the whole in the building thing is just kind of like, I don't know, like.
It was a strange phrase. I don't know
Yeah.
that I've ever heard it. This is the inside these walls decision.
I think he was trying to tell you, like, this isn't because Ben Willis had a better week in practice. Like, something else was going on. The fact that Noah still played, though, it wasn't like
Right.
whatever happened didn't, like, kick him out or whatever. He could still – it was more of demotion than anything. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, like Shaka was saying, you're probably not going to see some of the rotations that we saw early in this game happening on the road at Purdue. It's probably going to be – these are your guys, and if there's a spot that you rotate a little bit with, you will. But I don't think they're going to experiment much more now you're going into Big Ten play. Yeah,
the rotations slim down as the season progresses, right? Of course. But they especially slim down when you get to conference play because conference means that much more. So it's not like you really ramp up rotations when you play Notre Dame, but because you played your non-conference games, you're not going to see as much rotating going forward.
Yeah.
When should we take questions?
We can do it. Yeah, we can start now unless there's anything else you guys wanted to before. We'll do. So we're going to have our preview show on Thursday night, Thursday evening, 6 or 7, whatever we do, just right here on YouTube and Facebook, and it'll be on the podcast as well. And then we'll be in actually Indianapolis is where we're going. We're going to do some kind of meetup Friday night in Indianapolis. We'll tweet it out and put it on the website and stuff. If you're traveling to the game, we'd love to have you come out. We do that. Every road game we're at, which is every road game, we do some kind of meetup somewhere in like the major city. Yeah, we're not going to do it in West Lafayette. We're not staying there. We're going in and coming out. But if you're staying in Indianapolis, which we will be, or just outside of it, come by and stuff. It'll be fun. But yeah, we'll do the preview show Thursday. All the regular podcasts and stuff this week. You guys doing Helium Boys?
Of course.
Yeah, Helium Boys, Composite 2-Star Recruits, Harvey Hyde tomorrow, me and Connor on Wednesday. So we're going to do it all.
We'll probably also have a triple-double podcast for basketball. I just got a chance to watch some basketball practice this week.
Oh, nice. A triple-double
We're hoping to
podcast.
have an interview as well, so just extra throw
We'll
in
get Riley
there as
coming
well.
to help you with some hoop stuff, because she's the expert. And and then Riley will be on campus doing instant analysis this week too.
Yep.
On which Wednesday?
Wednesday, yeah.
Okay,
I'll be there
cool.
Wednesday.
Sweet, yeah.
Yeah,
So
Coach Muss and a couple of the guys were at the game last night.
Yeah, as well as number one recruit in the nation, Jalen Stokes, I'm thinking, off the top of my head. So they've been bringing in 5-star after 5-star here recently, so we'll see if they can land one of those guys here soon. But exciting time over at Galen Center. If you get a chance later in the year, then get over there and check out the guys. I was impressed with some of the players that they have,
Cool.
the new guys they got in there.
Yeah, we can do some questions, Riley. We don't have to go too long the show because Shotgun's
Okay.
got a flight to catch, so yeah.
All right. Let's see. Question. This one from Guy Versa. Question. I've watched the first 2 games on TV and have not seen Coach Ryan. Is he at the games? Rob Ryan.
He quit. Yeah, he's no longer with it. No, he's press box. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually saw him. I was late getting over to the press conference last night, and I saw him on the way out. So
Yeah, so
Yes,
he's
he
up
is
there. It's he would be interesting to have on the sidelines, but I guess all the experience of being a defensive coordinator probably helps to have some eyes in the booth that you trust. I think Denton Lynn trusts him, but it would be fun to hear some of his tirades or something on the sideline. It'd be fun for you guys when you guys are down there. But
yeah, I saw his beautiful glowing locks coming off the bus as well for the Trojan Ball. So
nice.
he is still.
He didn't quit. I was kidding. That was a joke. So don't get mad at me.
No,
will.
he's very much there. I see him during warm-ups, walking out on the field. Question from Thomas. Were 3 methods drives by Georgia Southern too many?
3 methods drives.
Oh,
Methodical drives?
maybe
I believe.
scoring drives or something. Or
I think it's 3 methodical drives.
Oh, maybe that was it. Yeah. Well, one wasn't methodical. One was the first turnover. They did have 2 drives that were 10-plus plays.
One of them was the last one, which was extended by that.
That's true. Yeah, that was
pass interference.
that was a
That was
bad
a
pass
terrible
interference call. and
No, I
stuff.
mean, they had a couple. They had an 8-play drive in the first half that ended in the 4th down. Their second touchdown was 7 plays. Their third drive was 8 plays if you include a penalty. So yeah, they got a couple first downs in there. So there's things that need to be cleaned up for sure.
Yeah.
But also, you give up 3 scores in a game where the other team has 82 plays. It's a little bit lessens it for me because most teams are not going to have 82 plays in a normal game unless your offense is scoring that quickly, and then that's becomes the whole air raid versus defense, conundrum of do you try to slow things down and all that type of stuff.
Compared to last year, the way they were scoring, I'd much rather see them just score like. Wasn't that fun to see? Like, there's Mekhi Lemon catching. Oh, he's gonna run. He's gone. Like,
Yeah. There's no hope.
I'm tweeting. He's at the 40. I'm like, he's gone. Like, I'm
Yeah.
already
By the
tweeting
time
this.
you hit post.
Like that's way more fun. It does put more pressure on the defense. But I think in this case, it's like you weren't going to lose this game. You were still going to cover the spread. Put your defense in some tough spots, and don't be like, oh my God, if this happens the whole team changes every week. Like it's a whole different thing. You might play better, you might play worse. They played as good as you could play week 1. Stuff left to be desired in week 2 against an opponent that was motivated and played pretty well, and still you blew them out. So I don't mind the opportunity to get a little bit of adversity going into Big Ten play. So I wouldn't look at it as a big negative. I don't think it's like this telling side like, oh, they gave up that drive here. That's going to mean that Michigan's going to no. Like I don't think it's necessarily this like transitive property thing. It's certainly stuff that was exposed that you could clean up, but you probably would rather have that on film that you could work on going into these games as opposed to like not knowing it was there. And yeah.
All right, couple more. One from Carlos Hernandez. He said, I didn't recognize Chasen Johnson at first, but for how highly he's been regarded, he looked very shaky/jumpy.
I did note that he looked pretty jumpy. I think that's just anticipation, anxiousness.
Yeah.
There were a couple times where they were doing the clap, check with me. So when they would clap, and then they got Cam Fountain to jump that one time. But I think it was either
He
that drive.
jumped and just stayed there. He could have
Yeah,
gone
they
backwards.
just, like,
It was
froze.
weird. I was like, go backwards. And then there was like a good defensive play, and I'm like, that's offsides. And Connor was like, really? I'm like, it didn't look it if you weren't watching him because he was standing there. It didn't look like it was offsides, but he jumped and then just usually go back. He had time to go back and didn't. I don't know what. That was a weird one.
Yeah, that wasn't the Jason Johnson wasn't in on that drive, but he was in a couple drives later, and both times there was twice that and maybe even the PI that he got where when the clap he's ready to go because he was locked in on the receiver. He wasn't looking at the ball, so he was just ready to go.
Yeah, and he's been hurt. Like he's been hurt a lot too. So this is sort of like
I'm still very high on him. I think by the end of the season he'll be the other starter opposite.
I think it's a good opportunity for him to just you'd rather get some of the kinks out in that game than.
They'll keep an eye on Braylon Conley. He looks really good. Marcellus Williams looked really good in the first half. He gave up a couple catches in the second half. Could have gotten beat bad on a stop and go that the quarterback threw a terrible ball on. So, the cornerback battle will continue, and I think there's options there. But no one has quite solidified themselves outside of DeCarlos Nicholson.
Yeah.
Bob is asking, who's our best third, fourth option at receiver?
It's a great question. I don't know if we know yet.
I don't remember who said it. I don't know if it's you or Connor or Chris. Someone has said, maybe it was Chris, that said that he feels like that spot is going to be one guy's going to have 5 catches and 60 yards one game, and then against a different opponent a couple of weeks later, somebody's going to have 6 catches and 70 yards or something like that. But it's never going to be like solidified of this is the person. I thought Prince Strong would be that guy.
Me too.
Well, especially in the spring by the way he was playing.
Yeah, and that hasn't necessarily happened, and obviously he was banged up, so he didn't get to play. So then you think maybe it's Zacharias Williams, but Tanook Hines, they said on the broadcast, and I mentioned this throughout the week talking with people yesterday before the game, tailgates and stuff, that I didn't know this number, but that he was the only person gaining ground in that opener when USC was running for those long touchdowns. Like Eli Sanders takes off on that one, and Tanook Hines is across the field, and like you see him turn on the jets, and then he starts catching Eli Sanders. And Eli Sanders was flying, right? So on the broadcast, they said that he would on that play in particular, he ran 23 miles an hour.
Holy cow.
So he's got a special skill set, and we'll see he's a freshman. But the fact that he's the guy that they put at the top of the depth chart now, he hasn't started either game because they've come out in 12 personnel, but that he's been the guy at the top of the depth chart as number 3 wide receiver after arriving as a summer enrollee versus a spring, I think that tells you something. And I think that he's going to be a guy that will have a game where he goes off and has a 70-yard touchdown for one, and then maybe a couple other catches, as he continues to get used to this offense.
And I think it's much better this year where you got your Batman A and B, and then you have a bunch of Robins. You're not sure which Robin's going to be each week. And that where last year there was like 5 potential Batmans, and like you didn't know who. Now you just know, like, okay, these are going to be the dudes. Like you go with them, and then is it Hines? Is it Strawn? Like whoever it is, like they can come in and kind of fill roles. And so I don't know if they're going to solidify. And this is your number 3. I think I agree with Chris if that's what he said, where you might have different guys step up, and maybe by the end of the season there's someone that you're like, okay, Hines just can take the top off the defense. You need him in there. He's a good complement to a big guy like Lane and someone like Lemon who can like sneak into spots and just find openings and then and run in the open field. So I don't know if you need someone, but I'd rather have this situation than last year when you just didn't know who was the number 1.
And you also had DJ Jordan, who got a lot of rave reviews during fall camp. Now he's been with the reserves when he comes in. He hasn't played much early in games, but he looked pretty good when he came in with making a couple catches and then getting some yards after catch with Husan Longstreet in that one. So and he had the touchdown in the first game. They got called back, but he's got quicks as well now. So you got some smaller guys. This is one of the reasons why I thought Prince Strong might end up being the guy is because he's just a different body type than what you have with the other guys. I mean, I know Jacoby Lane is 6'4", but it's different bodies than what Prince Strong has. Whereas Tanook Hines, Mekhi Lemon are basically the same body type, and then DJ Jordan's a little bit smaller, but also all 3 of those guys are have a slot body, but they can play outside as well.
Yeah.
Ryan, was Batman Robin our first analogy of the night?
It might have been, yeah. Like someone pointed out, no food analogies. Like I don't
get it in, guys.
I don't
He'll get
force
it in.
it. It's just like if it comes. Like this, we haven't talked about anything that was like dire. Like the only thing was like people freaking out that you won by 39 points or whatever. It's like that's the only concern. So I don't have like a lot of food analogies for that. I think we got a super chat though.
Super chat.
Do you have that? You want to hit the cha-ching? Yes.
Here we go.
Yes, thank you.
I don't see it.
Oh, you don't see it? It should be up the top.
So So GS says, after watching 2 home games, are you still feeling 8-4, or given the early losses by Notre Dame and Michigan, do you think that we can get to 9-3? Good show, guys. Thanks.
Oh, thanks. Did you find it?
No.
Oh, weird. Okay. I'll take a look. Yeah, it should be up the top of the questions now. Okay. If you haven't started, whatever. I'm still I feel more confident that I think 8-4 is going to be the floor, but I think 8-4 is still going to be par. It's hard for me to picture this team going 7-5 unless some really bad things happen. But it's also okay, can you pull off a win against an Oregon or a Notre Dame on the road? I what I watched from the Illinois game. I thought they looked pretty beatable, even though they end up blowing them out at the end. But it's a good team. But I think USC. It's not like some world-beating team that USC can't beat. So go in there, go for a road game, and play your best football, and you can win that game easy. And then if you start off 5-0, now there's 9.
Hey, I bet you they'll actually be ranked then.
USC will be ranked then for sure. If not, there's some problems there. But yeah, so I'm definitely more optimistic just watching the team play. I feel all right, they do have, we knew there was a lot of good ingredients there, but you weren't sure how the dish was going to come together. The smells are coming out of the kitchen. It's going
no.
Riley didn't catch it at first, but yeah.
No.
You're starting the dish. It's coming. It seems like it's coming out well. It's not done yet. We're on course number 1.5. There's got some wine coming out now. We haven't even got to the third fork yet, but the meal is shaping up to be all right. I think it's gonna be a fun experience.
It's shaping up, but you never know what could happen. The fire alarm could go off. You have to clear the restaurant.
Yeah, the expediter could screw up. Whatever. We got everything's got to come out on time, hot.
A little concerned still with the offensive line. That's going to be a concern of mine until I see them play a good defensive front. So that'll probably not be until week 5. I don't know exactly. I haven't seen much of Michigan State to say that about them. So that'll be something that I've got to keep my eye on. I'm close. I think we're at 8-4 to start the season. I said last week I was getting closer to bumping them up a win just based on Jade Maeva's mechanics. And seeing the improvement there.
Although Riley kind of poo-pooed your mechanics thing.
His mechanics are different, trust me. He said that, he's tightened some things up. So he admits it without trying to give anyone else credit for what happened away from their actual facility. But I think that if he continues to make good decisions, and again, that's going to be tougher to do when you play better teams or the windows are tighter and all that type of stuff. But if he continues to make better decisions, then yes, my win total goes up by 1. I'm not quite there yet, but another step forward, I think, towards making that prediction after seeing what he did this game against a little bit better opponent. And then we'll see if Purdue, if that makes the full jump for me or not.
Yeah, I think general consensus among most of us is that it's not convinced to add that win yet, but it just seems more realistic. You're not, you're okay, yeah, it seems like a higher possibility, but you're just not fully convinced yet. So, like you said, week 5 will be a big determinator.
Determinator. I'll be back.
One more question?
Sure.
All right.
Are new ones not showing up? Maybe new ones aren't popping up.
A couple just
okay.
Someone that missed.
No worries.
Christopher Parker, were the 2 transferred defensive tackles in the game during the second quarter runs up the middle?
I don't have off the top of my head. I haven't done full charting breakdowns to know who was in there. I don't know exactly which runs up the middle we're referencing because they had a 10-yard run, a 13-yard run. Is that the ones that are in the second quarter? Because those are the only runs that were more than that were double digits. So. Oh yeah. Jamal Jarrett was in on either the first or second drive to start the drive. So if it was the second one, then he was. But Keyshawn Silver, I thought, played really well. I liked what I saw from him. I thought he did some more stuff in this game. He blew up one play and then chased the guy outside to the edge. He didn't actually get the tackle, but I liked the pursuit that he had on it. So I think that those guys are going to continue to be guys that will be in the mix. We'll see what Devin Tompkins and Jade Abasiri can do. Abasiri didn't do too much in this game either. I just thought that whole
No, he was playing late in the game too.
Yeah, and I think that tells you that these are guys that need experience. And these are guys that they're still mixing and matching and trying different combinations because it wasn't like he was with Devin Tompkins at the end. He was with, I think, Jakeem Stewart at one point. So I think they're still trying different combinations and seeing how those pairings and groupings work on the defensive front, and just also getting guys more and more experience because they are all young bucks. Outside of Keyshawn Silver, they all have limited experience coming into the season.
Yeah. I think what's happening, Riley, sorry, behind the scenes stuff, I think only the Facebook comments are coming up and not the YouTube ones.
Oh, really?
That might be why, yeah. Are you seeing any YouTube ones in there? I think that's why. So my apologies for that.
Oh.
We're not able to put up the YouTube comments. But thanks for Facebook for stepping up and providing a lot of questions and comments. Is there any YouTube ones that you see?
Alan had a question. He said, thoughts on USC being number 10 in the S&P Plus rankings? I don't know, Ryan, if
SP
you know
Plus?
you know SP Plus.
A lot of the analytics stuff has USC in the top 10. There's one that FPI is like USC is number 5. I mean, you blow out a couple teams, you're going to get points. So, yes, that's part of the problems with rankings. I think it's probably somewhere in the middle. But the fact that people didn't rank USC to start, they're not moving them. They're not putting them into the rankings until they play somebody real. But if you look at some of the analytics stuff, you're like, yeah, they have a better resume than some of these other teams. So, SP Plus. I like Bill Connolly and what he does over at ESPN. It does take a lot of what you brought from the formulas, a lot from last year, and then what you did in the off season, and they try to incorporate transfers and things like that as far as talent goes, and then how you perform and how your offense is ranked. And having an offense that's ranked that high, I think they're going to move up and stuff too. But it'll even out a little bit more when USC plays better opponents and isn't winning by 1,000 points. So.
Only 99.
Only 99 total, yeah.
Sam want to know, question, do you think Mekhi Lemon could win or be in the conversation for the Biletnikoff Award this season? He looks really good. I mean, if you see his numbers, it's like 260 yards or something like that. I'm eyeballing off the top of my head here. In 4 quarters, because he hasn't really played the second half of the game. So that's pretty good.
62-yard touchdown and a 74-yard touchdown.
If he could just keep up that pace every 4 quarters that he plays, getting 260 yards, I would say he probably would win the Biletnikoff. But, yeah, the biggest question for me with Mekhi Lemon is, can he stay healthy?
Yeah.
Because, he's going to take some hits. He got his ankle tweaked a little bit on the kickoff return. If he's returning punts and kickoffs. And I wonder if that's why, there's the first 2 punts – there was a ton of space between him and the ball, and he didn't go try to return it. And I thought that he could have, but maybe that was one of their decisions.
That was a weird one. It almost looked like the sun was or something, but I don't think the sun was facing him. It looked like he didn't judge it right, so then he was like, uh-oh, I didn't get under it,
Better safe than sorry. So I don't know if that, what the reasoning was there, but he didn't return those when he could have had a chance to. So if he can stay healthy, definitely could be in the mix. He's electric.
Andrew says, question, UCLA has the checkbook. Any chance they lure back Lynn, or is he bound to head south to be a Gator? So I assume he's talking about as a head coach.
I mean, I think it depends on what he desires.
Yeah.
Because if he wants to be a DC, the next jump is the NFL. If he wants to be a head coach, then yes, UCLA could be a place that he goes. Florida, I think he will be an attractive name if the defense plays to what we think it will be capable of. But they got to play a little bit better than they have the last two games to be able to solidify that, because you're playing some tin cans. So you got to once you get into big games, that's when you got to show out.
Yeah. Andrew had another one. Question: you guys think we're overlooking Purdue? Barry Odom has them playing better, and they have a lot to play for. Win over USC would do a lot for them.
True, it definitely would.
Yeah, you can't overlook. You lose to Maryland last year, their only Big Ten win. You cannot overlook anybody.
And if you're Purdue, you probably, not that you had to use too much against the 2 teams they played so far, but you saved some stuff for that USC, because that is a great opportunity. If you can beat USC at home because USC has the name recognition, that's a great opportunity to get more donors, more boosters behind you and feeling like this thing is moving in the right direction. So they're more willing to, donate money towards your NIL efforts and everything else. So, yeah, if you look at it on the schedule, you go, this is an opportunity for us to gain some cachet with our fan base. So I think they were probably holding some stuff back. And, if it's trick play this or trick play that, then I would have confidence the USC's defense will be on top of it, because the trick plays that have been attempted against them have done nothing.
True. Cool. I think that's all we got.
All
Is there
right.
anything new ones coming in? Yeah, sorry, Riley. I don't know why
Yeah, I apologize. I could not see any of the YouTube comments. So
no worries. But thanks for Facebook.
Yeah,
for stuffing
thank
up.
you.
Yeah, we love having both platforms rolling in there. But I was like, oh, there's a lot of Facebook questions, and I'm like, I think that's what it is. So we just don't have the YouTube.
that
ones
would
there.
make sense.
Yeah, that's okay. There's all these technical things. I have to use my engineering background a lot.
Yeah, get on it.
It's
We have to
like-
keep you on your toes.
It's been more
okay?
than 20 years since I was an engineer, so it's like I gotta remember some of this stuff. Cool. All right.
Ryan, you were told to spread joy. So how are you gonna leave it?
Oh yeah, I do want to spread joy. I think things could certainly be a lot worse. I think those of us that have been around the program feel more optimistic even than maybe we were during camp or a few weeks ago. There's still questions. There's still things that this team needs to work on. But knowing the kind of work that was put in the offseason and how we feel it made a difference, you're starting to see that on the field. Yes, it's against a couple tomato cans. Now you got to go through and play some Big Ten teams, and you get to play the lower ones first and then build your way up. So I think this is all like, no one wants to have patience, no one wants to wait, but you can only do 1 week at a time, and it's a perfect sort of early part of the schedule to go 1 week at a time. If USC goes out and beats Purdue and beats Michigan State, then obviously a lot of talk about Illinois if they're still undefeated and all that. That'll be interesting. But then it'll be like, okay, well then can you win the rest of your games if they beat that? So I think this is just one you sort of like enjoy it week by week. Get the joy out of putting 59 points on the head coach that you probably didn't like if you're a USC fan. Like enjoy that. Like it was a good time. I don't think it was done disrespectfully. It was, they were still trying to score late and stuff. They were still trying to do whatever they could, and USC didn't back down and just start kneeling on the ball. They were like, hey, they were going to do the same thing too. So enjoy it. I think college football season isn't that long. We wait a long time, months and months and months for it. So enjoy it every week. You don't need to 39-point win. What are we doing? This team sucks. Like, have a good time. You'd be killing for this in May. Like, oh my God, if I could watch USC football play in May, it'd be amazing. So just think about that. Have a little joy.
Yeah.
Thank you for the words of wisdom, Ryan.
I think you can look at it and see the steps are being taken. Everyone talked all week about them wearing the tracksuits coming in. The attention to detail is there. They will continue to get better as the season goes along, I think. And things like when you watch them score, when you watch King Miller, we haven't mentioned his name. We should be mentioning his name on every show.
Back-to-back touchdowns for a walk-on.
Yeah, after we had to do the research and found out that it hadn't been a walk-on touchdown since 1994.
Yeah.
So 31 years, there hadn't been a touchdown. Now you get one in 2 weeks straight, which is why I asked Riley in the press conference, when does he get his scholarship?
Yeah.
But King Miller on that touchdown, he goes towards the right and he breaks back left. Do you see who's right behind him running in the end zone? Husan Longstreet's right there, along with two other. There's like a convoy of guys, and like every touchdown, it feels like there is a cluster of guys going in. Go back and look at the Mekhi Lemon touchdown, the first one, I believe. Yeah, the first one.
62.
He catches the ball. His back is to the end zone, so he catches it looking at Jaden Maiava. He makes the first guy miss, breaks a tackle and he shakes a guy. And Walker Lyons is about 10 yards behind him when he first catches it. Walker Lyons doesn't just watch and say, okay, we'll see if he makes a play. Walker Lyons starts running, and he's hightailing it, and he gets in front of Mekhi Lemon and creates enough, traffic that he can weave in and out and get the touchdown. He doesn't have to do that because he can look at it and see that guy's 10 yards ahead of me. He's not going to expect that, he's going to break a tackle and make a guy miss, or maybe do because Mekhi Lemon. But it's the effort that is being given for your teammates. And that's something, those are signs of the best teams. Those are signs of teams that are playing for the next person beside them instead of just yourself. So I think there's a lot of small detail positives, and I'll try to point some more of those out when I see them in rewatching the game and charting the rest of the game that I think stand out to me so far about what we've seen the first 2 weeks. Not just the point totals and the yards per play, but the small details of this team being together. And they talked all season about it, right? This is the closest team we've ever been. A lot of teams talk about that, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to be about it? And are you going to be about it when it gets tough in the fourth quarter? That'll be something else we have to see a little in the future. It was in the Ghost Notes, but I'll share this here. I was listening and overheard someone that had been in the locker room during halftime, and there was a defensive player. The word that was used was ballistic, I think, was going ballistic on his teammates, a defensive starter, because of the points they've given up in the first half. I think that shows, what you need to see from a team. So the fact that they care that much that, they've given up those points.
Maybe he was reading the P. That's why he was
Maybe
reading
that
the
was.
Peristyle, yeah.
Stopped in between and oh, man, the P's not happy. I got to get on these guys. But, yeah, so I think that, your defensive leaders are saying, this team shouldn't have any points against us, and to step it up type of thing, I think is a positive as well.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for Tunnel Vision. Recapping Week 2, USC versus Georgia Southern, 59-20. Next week on the road at Purdue. Anything else, guys?
No, that's it. I think we got the 60% off sale over
Yes.
at uscfootball.com if you
That'll
want to
spread
stop
you some
in.
joy.
I think it's another day. Yeah, you will not regret it. You love these shows. We appreciate you coming in here. But, man, you can read stuff that just the ghost notes alone, when Shotgun breaks down where everyone played and how many snaps and all that, all the stuff that's going up there, so much analysis, you'll be overwhelming. You will be the most informed USC fan that you know if you get a subscription, and you get it 60% off right now, so don't miss it.
For sure. Go check it out if you aren't already subscribed. And then tune in this week. Preview show on Thursday for Purdue, and then Sunday recap. But thanks for tuning in.